Afternoon. As introduced, my name is Kevin Hall. I'm the CEO of Emergent Waste Solutions. Emergent has a game-changing thermolysis technology based here in Vancouver. And this afternoon, I want to address how the thermolysis technology can be synergistic with food security. And I'm delighted that I'm coming in right after Elisha because I think her and I should have a talk. Basically, food security, as we all know, is access to healthy food and optimal nutrition for all. And obviously, in the Canadian context, given that we're completely dependent on California for much of the year, and that California is essentially operating a water export business, we can see the writing on the wall. We have to wean ourselves off of California fruits and vegetables. It is a matter of national security. As pointed out already, the world is on the cusp of a transformation with fruit and vegetable production by way of indoor growing. And now Canada could be a powerhouse on that indoor growing. The automation is there, the technology has evolved, Canadians are entrepreneurial, we have the land, but we're lagging behind. As Elisha pointed out, other countries, the leaders in this space, have helped grow their domestic indoor tech sectors using a raft of grants and incentives, which Jake Edmiston pointed out.
Kevin, you're doing a great job speaking. I just want to make sure, are you planning to put slides on the screen as well?
You're not seeing my slides?
No, we're seeing you, and you're speaking great, but we don't see your slides.
That's very, very kind of you. I do not know why.
We've got a little bit of extra time, so I'm just going to let you share your other screen. You might have multiple screens on. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to let people know that Matthew Diggle, who was going to present Test and Travel, has said that he can't travel. He's really under the gun with the COVID-19 tests. And so Kevin is giving our last talk today, and I really appreciate it. You can also email me your slides, and I might be able to put them on. Or if you just try and share again, and then select the or switch the screen that you're presenting or sharing.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with this before, so it's I'm going to save it as a different format. See if that helps. Let's see if we can share that. Now, are we seeing this screen?
No, but I have your slides. Would you like me to try and share my screen?
Yeah, why don't you do that?
All right.
To this point, anything actually on the slide has been minor in nature.
Just want to know, can you see my screen with the food security presentation?
I can see it, definitely.
Does that look good?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay, so if you just tell me next, and I will go to the next slide or back.
Yeah, Michael, I really appreciate this. It was quick thinking on your part. So as you can see, I've been through the initial slide and the second slide and the third slide and now the fourth slide and one more. So I'm showing my source for much of my information because I've largely plagiarized what Lenore and Evan have done in a recent article. And this is where we've come to. And the previous speaker, of course, identified exactly these problems in the Canadian context. You get into the northern climes, especially, in fact, anywhere across Canada except Vancouver, and you have a problem growing most of the year. And that's where thermolysis comes in. Next slide, Michael. So basically, thermolysis, for those of you who may not know, it takes place where you have a high temperature with carbon-based material, and you don't have oxygen. So you don't get a combustion, you do not get incineration, there's no burning. What you do get is a breakdown of this carbon-based material into its constituent elements. So gas, oil, and carbon. Next slide. Here we see in a nutshell the advanced thermolysis system in the middle, and you can see all the variety of inputs that come into an ATS and the outputs. Here, we're going to focus on just a couple of things specifically, not the full range. And we're going to look in particular at the heat and syngas that we can get off of this. Next slide, Michael. Now, our inputs in this situation, as we talk about food security, are going to be plant waste and wood waste. We're going to bring them into the ATS plant, into the reactors. I'm going to break these down and create a syngas and bio-oil, a heat, and a biochar. Now, that syngas, we have the technology. It's not proprietary to EWS, but we have the technology to further break down the syngas into a separate methane, hydrogen, and CO2. So now we can take the hydrogen and the methane and we can fuel fuel cells, and we can provide energy by way of the fuel cells and grid scale batteries to a growing operation. We can as well, alternatively, take our syngas and our bio-oil and burn them for the sake of making energy through a turbine. Now, already, given the production of biochar on the right-hand side, we are a climate fighting technology, climate change fighting technology, because to the extent we manufacture biochar, we've locked in climate change gases into that biochar. So we can reduce climate change emissions from the waste material you see in the top two boxes by as much as 30 to 35%. So we're fighting climate change. We're providing a syngas, a heat, and a biochar. The heat can be ducted in to the growing operation, thermostatically controlled. The biochar, if you have an in-soil component to the indoor growing, the biochar can be extremely valuable there in that it maximizes the efficiency of fertilizers, and it reduces water requirements, and it creates a grow environment for the microbial life that chelate the minerals for plant absorption. And then when the growing operation has harvested and the plant waste is set aside, it can come back into the top box and become the plant waste, creating a cycle. Next slide. Just as an example, these are estimates. Approximately 20,000 square feet or 1,900 square meters will allow for 1,000 growing towers. Those towers can generate, depending on what is being grown, upwards of $200,000 per month in gross revenues, providing $2+ million from that 20,000 square foot building on an annualized basis. So what we're looking to do is exactly what the previous speaker was touching on, and that is, let's make it profitable, let's make it feasible economically to be food independent in various areas of Canada where currently it's just not. Imagine growing in Edmonton 12 months out of 12, having fresh produce year round and paying virtually nothing for the heat and for the CO2 that's pumped in, and getting a cut rate on the electricity, and not paying for the transportation and not being reliant on another country. That is what we're envisioning here. Now, Emergent is larger than this one vision. We are currently closing a deal in the Philippines where we will be displacing a landfill with our technology and taking the municipal waste and processing it and generating electricity. And we're also looking at projects in Eastern Canada where we will create biocoal with our technology and displace coal. So we're more as a company than this, but this has us particularly excited. And like Elisha, we're looking for a grow partner. We're looking for somebody who's got the expertise on indoor growing, but doesn't find it economically feasible right now to grow in some of the, well, in virtually all the areas of Canada in the winter months. Final slide, Michael, and that wraps up presentation. And thank you all for listening. Questions?
Thank you, Kevin. Does anybody have any questions for Kevin.
Well, I thought you had a good question last time, Darren, so I'll ask it again. Just wondering about your intellectual property strategy. Do you need any support on that? Do you feel like you have a competitive edge that would distinguish you when it comes down to bidding on some of these projects?
We do have unique IP, patents are filed, and so the process is working its way through. I don't think we need any help on that side. So that's good. We do feel, based on the various elements in our technology, that we have a competitive technology. We've been working with a consultant in Quebec who are experts in this field, and they tell us that we're one of just a small handful of companies that have the ability to do what we do.
That's great. And I'm just wondering about the regulatory environment. Are there incentives or things that government can do to make it easier for you, or that are making it more difficult?
Yeah, that's almost a sore spot in that when we incorporated and when we started out, we went to government thinking that they would embrace this because of the climate change fighting elements of it, because of the waste processing capabilities. And in fact, nobody was interested, didn't want to see it happen. We ran into resistance at municipal levels. We had asked one municipality, just issue us a letter of support. Just say that you'd like to see this. And they couldn't bring themselves to do it. We're not sure where the exact problems lie with it, but I know 2 municipal engineers actually tried so hard to obstruct us in getting through to the municipal council that they lost their jobs over it.
Wow.
Wow.
And are you getting any more traction with some councils now? Is it getting a bit easier, or are you still hitting the rafters?
What we're going to do is wait until we close our deal with Philippines, which could be as early as this week. And this is, there's actually 24 municipalities that have signed up to have their landfills replaced with our technology. So we're going to close the first of those 24, God willing, this week or next. And we wanted to wait until that happened and then go back to the municipalities and say, look, this is what we're doing there. Why can't we do it for you guys? I know, for example, the district of Sechelt on the Sunshine Coast is going to have their landfill filled around about 10 years ahead of schedule, which is very bad for them because, of course, money is put aside annually to decommission landfills. And when you finish up a landfill 10 years ahead of time, you got a real bill to pay. And so they're in a hard situation, and they're going to spend approximately 20 million to build a new landfill if they go ahead with it. And we can solve the problem for less than that, fight climate change, free up the land that would be on that landfill. It's ticking all the boxes. So we're hopeful that when we go back to them and say, look, Philippines pulled the plug, we're doing the deal, it's great. We're hopeful that'll influence them. We don't know yet.
There's 2 questions here. One question from Jeffrey: what are the setup costs for one plant?
Okay, our plant is modular in design. So at the bottom end, we're looking at an ATS 1000. The costs on an ATS 1000 is 6.5 million USD. That is the equivalent to a turnkey commissioned scale. There are pre-processing requirements and post-processing requirements, depending on what feedstock is being fed, the moisture content, the particle size, etc. So some preparatory work may need to be done on feedstock. That'll raise the cost, and depending on who the client is and what form they want the output in, then we might have to do some post-processing. The valuable product that we make is a biochar, but our technology comes with an extra reactor. We're triple reactor technology. We have an extra reactor to convert that biochar into activated carbon. So now we can take any portion of the biochar we've produced and make activated carbon, which of course has a huge and growing market.
And for the investor that invests in a plant, what type of ROI could they expect to get?
We're looking at a return on investment within 3 years. But our business model is that of joint ventureship. We don't want to throw the plant over the fence and say, there you go, guys. What we want to do is come alongside, be responsible to operate the plant, be responsible to market the products, etc., so that somebody doesn't have to become a thermolysis expert and they don't have to become a marketing force. They can take advantage of the marketing we're doing. We have, for example, formulated 3 products using our biochar's 10% component for growing. And the 2 scientists that designed this are both graduates of University of Alberta in Edmonton, and a husband and wife team. She has her doctorate in the soil sciences, and he in plant science. And they've developed these blends for us. So there's no dirt in these blends. All active ingredients with the 10% biochar. Their market testing has been phenomenal. The field testing, I should say, has been phenomenal. So this is the sort of thing that if we do joint ventures, we can offer this service up to whoever joint ventures with us.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? That was very insightful, Kevin. So thank you for your presentation. And I think I'll just turn over to Michael.
Well, thank you, Darren, for chairing. And I just might ask you another question, Kevin, because it does sound like you've hit a couple impediments. I'm just wondering about whether or not you found Alberta to be more receptive than other places. Is every region of Canada quite different in terms of its approach and responsiveness?
Yeah, I think, and within any given province, of course, there's so many different ministries, et cetera, that I wouldn't judge a province on a single experience. But this is the experience we had in Alberta, because we first located actually in Alberta, and we were taking tires and crumbing the tires and then feeding them in for feedstock and creating carbon black, well, recapturing carbon black from the tires and creating a light diesel. We located because we were within reasonable proximity of a facility that was already crumbing the tires and could provide them to us. And we went through the Alberta Recycling Management Authority, ARMA. And we were actually set up by ARMA with the tire crumbing operation. At some point, the tire crumbing operation went out of business. We went back to ARMA and said, is there another operator in the province you can introduce us to so we can purchase the tire crumb and continue this? And they said, actually, you never should have been given it to begin with. We don't allow pyrolysis, which is a misnomer, it's thermolysis, in the province. And I said, well, why ever not? And they said, well, somebody tried it once and it didn't work. So we were actually banned in Alberta from sourcing the tire crumb, and we had to uproot our plant and move it to BC. So that was our experience in Alberta, that there was definitely obfuscation there. What we run into elsewhere in Canada isn't so much that actual obstacle as just an apathy or worse.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the right level is. Like, do we need to get more connectivity federally, or are the provinces really the only place to start with these conversations logistically?
I would think federally might be a better way to go. We approached in British Columbia, for example, the Environment Ministry and said, look, we would like to source some of the tire crumb because they've got a contract with an American firm who's taking virtually all of the tire crumb in BC. And they said, well, why don't you go ahead and build the plant and come back to us and we'll see what we can do in providing tire crumb to you. And I thought, there's a person who's never been in business a day in their life. So it's not just Alberta, and it's it's not just municipalities and provincial governments. Perhaps the breakthrough would be federally. Now, we did apply for some federal grants, for example, through SDTC, and we were rejected on each of the applications. And then we were told that they simply don't favor pyrolysis. Now, I know pyrolysis had problems in the past. For God's sake, air travel had problems in the past. It didn't mean we quit trying to fly airplanes. So I'm not sure, how scientific it is to say somebody tried that once and it didn't work, we're not doing it again. But that's been our experience on the federal level with the SDTC and the WIN programs. But I don't want to, sit here and just complain about government. We tried government, we hit a roadblock, we said, great, we'll go to industry and we'll go international. And now we have some connections with industry for biocoal production and some potentials in other waste processing in Canada. So I don't want to come across as a whiner.
Sure. Well, no, I think we need to be real. I mean, there are real problems and it affects your business. So let's be real about it. And Jonathan from SDTC is actually saying in the chat space, do get in contact with him and he'll see what he can do. And it may be that we as an organization need to have a conference where we do invite industry and government in to hear these stories and really proactively try and understand better what the problems really are. Like, are we just lacking information or is there really a problem? And so if that's something that we could do, Kevin, let us know. I think Alberta Innovates also is trying to take a look at this. It looks like there's a few of you we could band together and just have a mini conference where we invite government, industry in and we hash it out. So we're happy to do that. Today, we decided to invite the mayoral candidates because we want to hash it out. We want to have a local government that works with innovation and also works federally. So we are led by people like you and me who want to help each other, basically. So we're here, and I'm just so glad that you're being honest, forthright, and you've got a great story and you haven't given up yet. So thank you for all of that. And Kevin, thanks for sharing your email there as well. And we wish you all the best with your journey. And if we can help, just connect up and let us know if we can help specifically. There's a lot of people here. And Darren, you've got a lot of insight into the Canadian picture as well. I don't know if you have any thoughts hearing from Kevin's struggles. What could we do better to try and get a collective wisdom in this community that involves both government, industry, and the startup community?
I mean, I strongly feel that, different funders and different investors, you just look for different things. And so it's, sometimes you just don't fit, right? It's nothing wrong with the company, but you just don't fit with their criteria. So it's a matter, who do you fit with? And if there's a gap, is it a gap that somehow we can fill with other support? Maybe there is something that we can do there, right? So, there is a lot of companies in this space looking for, so it is kind of competitive. So really important to highlight the differences between what you're doing and other people are doing in your deck and that. So I think there's some confusion with some investors in terms of what, because they just see so many kind of similar types of companies.
I'd be happy to provide the investor deck to anyone who emails me. We have a nice deck for people to look at. We can provide a long PowerPoint version that explains everything much better than what I've done in this brief space. So if people want more information, it's there. I can provide pro formas, etc. We really do have a very flexible and we think world-class technology, and mind and management is right here in Canada.
Well, thank you, Kevin. And if you share your fuller deck with me, I'll get it out to our network. This is definitely an issue for Alberta, for Edmonton. We are playing catch up on a lot of these fronts. We know it. The people know it and the people care. So I don't think the issue is going away, and it might be a matter of timing and the right opportunity, as Darren says. So hopefully we can help line things up for you.
Michael, I appreciate all of this, the opportunity to talk, the discourse, the tips and advice, I will reach out to Jonathan. I've copied his information off of the chat there. And thank you, guys.